why I took the Q short going over the long 3-day weekend. Now, having a 3-day weekend, that definitely can add to the reasons why. But more importantly, we had a 24-hour box, right? And we just absolutely could not even get close to cost basis and could not get to the floor. And this trended for 1, 2, 3, 4 days. Now, that doesn't give everything. That's almost not enough for me to say I'm short, right? Looking at that and having a second high, knowing that we have empty space up above us, right? Because we talked about this, we said this is the precipice. This is either where we reverse it and we lose that floor and we move through the empty space underneath us, or we punch through and we move to the empty space up above, and that would have been 491. So that being said, we move down to the 4-hour. Now the 4-hour is absolutely essential to why I did what I did. Okay, so now we can kind of take away a little bit of this. And I want to go over just the exhaustion, okay? And I want you guys to really put yourself in the position, like on every single candle of, I mean, think about how hard or how much pressure has to be put on that 477.75 level. 3 times is enough for me to contemplate going short, right? And in the grand scheme of things, right, we can always say 1, 2, and 3. But what really sparked my attention was that entire week we were unable to, and even on Friday we were unable to even get close. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 major rejections. Now, here's another important element to why I decided to go short. Everything has to come from something, right? We have to bounce, and if you bounce 3 times off the floor, right? We look at Nike, right? This is a perfect example of that. That's beautiful, right? We like this. We like when we see those rotations, and obviously on this one it was flipped to the upside. So we go back to the Qs, and it's essentially that same story, but there is no bounces, right? If we had come down, folks, off this bounce, and instead of holding here and then bouncing back up to exhaust whatever buying volume that got us there, right? So if we had dropped, bounced, then you might hear me considering a different play, because we've gathered the volume we needed off of the floor, pulling from this structure, which is small, and then pushing out for that 3rd attempt. But we did not, and that's not good, because when you bounce off of something and you're unsuccessful in breaking that wall, it is always your best bet to come back down to where you bounced and grab that volume again, right? So you didn't. You gapped up, and then what really adds to this play, right? We move down to the hourly, is this. Not only did we bounce, but we gapped up. And typically you want to gap fill if you're going to, it's not always, but a lot of the times you'll gap fill before continuing moving to the upside. Now that's a considerable gap. This bounced right off of the floor of that previous box, and it pushed up and it moved to that high. It reversed and then gapped up again, never even able to cross. And look at this, this is really interesting. So not only was this their stone wall, but if you look at this in a technical sense, right, that's the floor of a box. You weren't even able to get above that. And how many times did you hit? 1, 2, 3. Floor, you are also again in a box. You have a trigger on a lower time frame here to signify that you are in fact going to lose that floor. And this is, again, you start really diving into your chart, you're going to see these things. 1, 2, 3. Right now we don't need that signal because we have cost basis, but obviously this candle punched through it. That candle closes, and what's underneath us? What do we really have? This has already been bounced off of, and it's not even a really strong or a horizontal level. It's just somewhere where we stutter stepped before we actually made that low. So your volume is exhausted. We're not holding ourselves up there. So this is something that's easy to break. You have a gap fill floor. Now pay attention to how the candles behave. Whenever we bounce, right? We need to grab something. Something has to be held. When you bounce on these 3 candles, you grab nothing, because what do you have up above you? Nothing, right? So you would have to, I mean, what do you have up above you is empty space, but this is just one bounce floor. You can tell by this first hourly candle, we're probably not going to be recovering jack shit. Also, you have 2 minutes or 3 minutes, 2 minutes to take a call, hedge yourself. We do have a considerable bounce on the Qs and a hold right here. Now, this is, again, does not signify anything because we have not grabbed anything, but just FYI. So anyway, getting back to it. So starting from the top, right, we have that 24-hour setup where we're sitting under that box, unable to go and move to cost basis and unable to break into highs. And this is a week-long affair, all week. They nail this stock. And when you go here, you see it. 1, 2, 3, right? So we move to the 4-hour, and then that really starts to make its appeal. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 rejections. You recover nothing. Then we look over in the most recent price action where I took this position, and again, move it down to the hourly. 1, 2, 3. So, I mean, at some point, right, that one doesn't actually, it didn't give me a signal, which is one of the reasons why, because you could have taken this today. Absolutely. There's no reason in hell that anybody, and if you didn't, you know, again, you got to look at why you did not do that. But that was a perfect box. This was the 1, 2, 3 floor with a 1, 2, 3 rejection off the top, a gap fill underneath, and then obviously that second target came from the 24-hour time frame, and we bypassed that. So now we're looking even further to the potential for 550, 370. So that is why I took the Qs, because of the multitude of rejections coming off the top, the inability for buyers to recover any floor and hold on to it. And so at that point, I'm going to go with where sellers are holding us back and the gap that we have to fill underneath us, giving us very little volume to hold us up. I'm going to take that trade. Now, again, you could have added today because of that lower time frame setup, but that's it. So, and honestly, I probably over-explained that, you know, because at the end of the day, it was the wall, the stone wall that was made on that weekly candle. So